Hello and welcome to another fabulous podcast series right here on PodHub. It's called Rethink Healthy and it's brought to you by AIA Insurance. It's a global campaign by AIA Insurance, and of course talking to individuals out there who don't necessarily live in the gym, who don't necessarily work out on a more than a regular basis, to exercise more than a regular basis. It's talking about individuals who obviously change their mindset in terms of rethinking a healthy lifestyle. How do they do it? Why did they do it? And of course, individuals that we have on the series right now basically embody that. And one individual that we have on the show right now is Rohan Paulus. Rohan, of course, is a CEO, and he's a CEO of his own company. It's St. James Capital. He sort of brings that whole balance in terms of boardroom and in terms of thinking and rethinking healthy. Rohan is on the show and it's going to be an absolute treat to have a conversation with him. Rohan, welcome to Rethink Healthy.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
So Rohan, let's talk about basically the whole healthy lifestyle itself. If we take you back to your younger days, you were a bit of a sports fanatic, weren't you? You took part in as many sports as you can possibly get a hold of. Talk us through that.
Yes, something like that, yes.
So talk us through your youth days.
Okay, so growing up as a early teenager, you get a sense that you want to try and make a mark. You want to go and get involved in things, and so sports, among other things, drama, arts, dancing was something that I got involved with, and took it up to a certain level, Sri Lanka schools and that kind of thing. But I think the great thing, what it taught me, was the fact that if it was a team sport, for example, let's say rugby,
right.
You needed to understand the strengths and weaknesses of the rest of your team so that you adapted your game to make sure that the team won. So what it taught you from a very early stage was that teamwork was very, very important. And the individual sports, like athletics, required you to be very disciplined, and there was no excuse. If you didn't succeed, it was down to you.
Right.
There was nobody else.
Right.
You couldn't blame it on the rest of the team.
Right.
So that early grounding taught me some very important lessons. Firstly, it taught me to be humble when it came to either winning, and then if you got really whipped and you lost, to be able to not to be depressed for too long, but to pick yourself up and look at the next event or the next game. And secondly, it taught me a lot of interpersonal skills, because you mix and your teammates came from all different backgrounds, and you needed to have an understanding about some of the challenges they had. So whilst the academic side was nothing much to write about, that sporting activity and the drama and the dancing enabled me to build a good social skills.
Right.
It enabled me to be, to a degree, motivate and inspire others to do their best. And it also got me into a routine and a rhythm of looking after myself and being active.
Right.
Didn't think too much about it. It was at that age where all of us have a lot of energy, and
We just happened.
Right? There was no major thinking about it. But that was very important. Now when I look back, that was a very important stage in my life.
Right.
Because it gave me life skills to help me throughout my life.
Rohan, you pretty much right throughout your corporate career has spent hours and hours in boardroom. Individuals like you obviously spend hours in boardroom, put the whole notion of being healthy in the back burner because they are more busy obviously trying to be wealthy, and clearly the indication is let me get this done first and then I can hit the gym. But you've actually switched it around really, and why did you do it? What made you do it? And where was the turning point? Because I'm sure you didn't start off that way.
It's an interesting angle, but I spent a very long time in Europe, and my corporate career was in the UK in particular, and in London,
right,
and in the south of Spain. What I found was that yes, your output, your work, and what you achieved was important and was measured. But in order for you to go up the career ladder or the corporate ladder, required you to have other skills and a network.
Right.
And that network usually meant that you got involved in some charity or in some sport, which then you came into contact with very important people, and they were able to interact with you in a social, in a more friendly environment, and they got to know you, which is very important to increase your influence and your network, and also to help you be better at your job.
Right.
Yeah. So that has always been the case.
Okay.
Right. And I was one of the first on a lot of areas in the corporate setup, not because of necessarily my work and my ability, but it's also the network and the people I met and,
right,
and I interacted with.
Right.
So I think that's very important.
Right.
You talk about it flipping over. Yes, you go through a period whereby you got kids, you're working 12, 14 hours a day, and it's in the city of London, it's ruthless.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely ruthless. So you're only as good as your last job,
right,
or your last little project.
Right.
And if you slip up, you're on kind of final warning, and the next one you slip up, you're out. So that pressure is always there. And a lot of reasons why corporates, very successful individuals, get into health difficulties is primarily because of the stress.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's important to, I realized at a fairly early stage that one, I enjoyed the sporting activity and the socializing. Of course, there was a lot of alcohol involved as well, but but
you're not Sri Lankan if that doesn't get involved.
So couldn't let the site down. I think Sri Lanka has one of the highest consumption of spirits in the world, so couldn't let the site down. Yeah, so I think that was in the background, but yes, you lose about 10 years of your life just focusing on putting bread on the table,
right,
and taking everything else out. And it's very easy,
right,
for individuals, and also it happened to me, where you just forget about everything else and you just think, right, I need to go and earn,
right,
and then I will leave the getting health and fit for a later stage.
right.
Okay, so I went through that phase. Fortunately, I was able to get out of it because I realized I saw some friends who were getting into difficulties.
That's exactly what I wanted to know. What made you realize that?
So I had some very close friend who was very successful, and he had an amazing career, very bright guy, and like he was, at another level. But suddenly he got a heart attack.
Okay.
And he was never the man he was after that. And he had let himself go to the extent that he just didn't have the energy. He had put on like 40, 50 kilos. And it was almost impossible for him to get back into some sort of shape, which then impacted his professional life, which then impacted his family. And he got divorced and all that stuff happened.
Right.
Because he didn't take care of himself physically.
Right.
Mentally too, I'm sure there were some challenges. So that was a wake-up call for me.
Right.
He's a very close friend.
Right.
Really loved the guy. He passed away about 5-6 years ago, but it was very bad for him.
Right.
It was very bad. He lost his friends, and it was tough.
Well, that, like you said, a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But Rohan, you obviously, you've been in the corporate sector for a long time. You've run businesses. You're running your own business right now. At the age of 60, usually individuals at the age of 60 take a kickback. They, take it easy because they are retired.
Yeah.
They want to go travel. They want to spend time. They want to splurge. They want to eat. They want to basically, go on vacation, etc. You've done something completely different. You, at the age of 60, you decided to get into powerlifting, and you are a medal winner, not one medal, 7 medals at the age of 60. That is rethinking healthy in a different level altogether. What made you do that?
Yeah, so I think there was a realization in my 50s or late 50s that with age, there are 2 things decline. One is your physical self, because your skeletal muscle starts to deteriorate significantly, because your muscle mass goes down from the age of about 30. And the second part is the mental decline. So I was determined not to let myself go down both routes.
Right.
So I was hanging around in the gym, just listening to the music and just chilling out. And then some of the trainers and Darin from High Octane said, "Rohan, why don't you compete?" So I said, "Okay, let's try this out." And somebody who would never give up, I took up powerlifting, and I was fortunate both at the Asians and the Commonwealth Games. So yeah, it was purely an instinctive thing, and not wanting to deteriorate mentally and physically to a level where I would be taking afternoon naps and going on
lazy strolls
and I don't know what guys do. I mean, but I still party. I still get down to the beach and surf and do all those things. Yeah.
At the age of 60, others pick up golf. I mean, they walk around, they hit the ball, but here you are doing something completely different.
Golf is a very tough game, I must say.
Compared to powerlifting, I agree with you.
So I put that in my list of things to do if I'm still around in 10 years' time.
But it's a completely different embodiment as far as rethinking healthy is concerned. Has this changed your life though, picking up powerlifting? How has it changed your life?
Okay, so it's a relatively tough sport because, for example, you're benching your body weight.
Right.
You're squatting 1.5 times your body weight, and you're bench pressing maybe 2.5 times your body weight, which is a fair amount of weight. Okay, so the risk of injury is very high. You need to be fully disciplined because invariably you're trying to hit a certain weight category. So even at our age, there are weight categories because it depends on your weight. So you have to take care about food you eat. Unfortunately, I have to get off the alcohol because that actually eats away at the muscle, and it's not great. So yes, so I think it has changed my life, but in a way that I still have a good time. Unfortunately, as somebody said, Rohan, you won all these medals. How? I said, look, the rest of the guys are not even vertical. so I turn up there and I win. Okay, so it's not a big deal. I think that's the advice I can give anybody at this age is, and I think it's a issue certainly in Sri Lanka where your retirement age was at 55.
Right.
And some of my friends and all from about 50, they're thinking about retiring.
Right.
Because they know in 5 years' time they're going to retire, and that sets in motion a decline mentally and physically sometimes,
right,
which you can't really get out of, because you're already thinking, I'm not good enough, or I had to take it easy. But when I go and compete, I see 65-year-olds, 70-year-olds, 75-year-olds will whip the pants out of me, because they are, I mean, you're talking about in an international context. You have the Chinese, the Japanese, the Koreans, the Australians, and New Zealanders. Their retirement is, they don't see retirement, they see retirement primarily as giving them financial freedom.
Right.
So they're financially free. They don't have to go to a 9-to-5 setup. But mentally and physically,
that's a different health altogether.
Totally different health altogether. So they get very strong. They have time to do that. The children have left. You know, they have no responsibilities, and they don't want to be riding around in flash cars and all that. So they're happy, and there's a realization that the biggest wealth they have is their mental and their physical state, right? And I think that realization now has happened, and I think in a lot of environments, certainly in the West, they look at you, and irrespective of your financial situation, they see whether you are in good shape,
right,
and whether you have a family or your friends around you, and that is what people look up to,
right,
rather than a flash car or a flash watch or something like that. You know, it's about how they look.
That's exactly what we're basically doing as far as AIA Insurance is concerned. When you're talking about rethinking healthy, there's so many different aspects to basically being healthy. Like we said earlier on, it's not necessarily just sitting in the gym and working out that's talking healthy, but mental wellness is very important, and it's very crucial in times like today. Obviously challenging the stereotypes at health right now is one of the things that we're basically looking at. Rohan, to you, what does it mean to be healthy?
I think, for me, it starts from a great mental state.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that you need to have the core nucleus, which is your family and your immediate family, and some friends around you who really care for you.
Right.
I think that's crucial. That's the foundation, that you're mentally in a good place, and that might include some spiritual
embodiment
as well. I think that's I think the important thing. Then it's a simple thing for me. You want to be able to go and do things you enjoy.
Okay.
It might be a cycle. It might be getting into the sea and swimming for a kilometer or half a kilometer out there. It might be getting onto a surfboard. It might be running with your kids or playing squash with their kids. I still manage to play squash with my son. He beats me silly, but I still play with him.
Right.
I might feel sorry for dad and let me win a set or two, but that's what I enjoy.
Right.
So if you are in a physical state, right, I'm not talking about pushing iron and getting big in the gym.
Exactly.
Being able to do those simple things. For example, one of my friends said, Rohan, I don't want to go even on holiday. The guys are very, very successful. They can go on, travel first class, stay at the finest hotels, but there is no energy to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's important it's crucial for me to be in a good, physically good place, for me to be able to go and do that. I mean, climbing up Sigiriya, for example, if you're not fit, you're going to get a bloody heart attack.
Yeah. And wanting to do something when you want to do it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily obvious. Then in the back of your head that you are healthy, right? That you've obviously kept up to whatever it is, irrespective of how old you are.
Spontaneity.
Yeah.
So somebody says, okay, Rohan, we're going to the beach or we're going down for a party down somewhere. You're not going to say, oh my God, it's Friday night, it's 9 o'clock in the night, I'd rather watch some television. No.
I have meds. After dinner medicine, before bedtime medicine.
You need to be in that zone to be able to say, okay, let's go and enjoy it, because our life is so limited. You've got very little time. You look incredibly young, so I'm sure you've got a lot more years, but it's
looks can be deceiving, Rohan.
Yes. So I think that for me, being able to do the things I like to do,
right,
whenever I want to do it.
Right.
It's as simple as that. And embracing a sport like powerlifting or any other sport is something that helps me get there.
Right.
Okay. So I do it for the fun of it.
So Rohan, now obviously you did speak about your friends who are incredibly successful, who can basically fly first class, stay at some of the best hotels, but they don't have the energy. How do they keep up with you, or is it the other way around in terms of going out? I mean, these are your friends. Just because they are not as energized as you are doesn't mean that you sort of discard them, do you?
No, so they want to know what the hell I'm on. I tell them it's a good stuff. No, I'm joking. But you got to live life.
Right.
And what I mean by that is we're all very privileged. We're still verticaled. We still are reasonably comfortable. But there's so much of suffering in the world. And that we're here for somewhere up there, somebody decided we're going to give you a good break. We're going to give you a good chance in life.
Right.
I think it's a waste and sinful to not to make the most of it.
Right.
So you have to go and enjoy yourself. So that philosophy drives me to live my life to the fullest. I've got 4 kids, and I also know that I don't want to disappoint them in a way that they say, okay, dad is too old to do this kind of thing.
Right.
So I want them also to be inspired to go and do stuff. And so luckily for me, all of them have kind of, they get embarrassed by mom, who says, okay, dad is doing all this stuff, why aren't you doing this thing?
Right,
So
right.
I think that's what keeps me going.
Okay. I mean, you did say you obviously play squash with your son.
Yes.
In terms of rethinking healthy, spending quality time and activities with your family is
Yes.
another
Yes.
huge health boost also at the same time.
Massive. I think the more quality time you can spend with your people that matter.
Right.
Some may not have kids, people that matter will greatly enhance your life and their life too. And I think you can't do that if your physical and mental state is not quite there.
Right. Yeah.
So my mantra is, please get active and keep your movement going, because that's the one, if you slow that down or stop that, then you're in trouble.
Well, Rohan, it's been a treat, obviously, listening to you, obviously thinking about, you've already sort of set your goals in what you want to do, wherever you are right now, and it's highly commendable to pick up a sport at this age, and not necessarily an easy sport either, a very rigorous sport like powerlifting. Is there something that you do on a daily basis, like a routine or an unconventional sort of activity on a daily basis just to keep you focused?
Yeah, so I try and mix my activity. I don't want to call it training as such,
Right.
but I think I have got into a habit of getting up around 6 o'clock and then getting out of the house and either going to the gym or going for a walk or a jog. I think if I say I'm running, it'll be a gross exaggeration. But so that won't happen unless A, you're motivated, B, it becomes part of your lifestyle.
Right.
Right? If it's a real kind of thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get up in the morning, I have to go to the gym, forget it, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So it has to, you got to somehow find a way and do an activity. Maybe it's playing badminton, maybe it's playing tennis, maybe it's just going for a walk. Is to make it as part of your lifestyle. Then every day you're going and spending an hour and a bit getting out and getting your movement going. And that over a year adds up massively. I mean, for example, a sport like powerlifting, you can't suddenly lift this overnight. It takes time, right? So likewise, if you can walk every day and you don't realize, you might be increasing your performance or your strength or your cardio strength by 1% every day. But 1% every day over, let's say, 200 days,
right,
you got a massive impact on your body. Massive impact. So a lot of people will think, oh my God, I can't get to that. But if you do it in small bits, you will get there.
Right, let's talk about the boardroom, so to say, or let's talk about financial planning, so to say, which is also another state of being healthy, because like you did mention, stress can play a huge role, especially if you are financially insecure. But clearly planning ahead of time is one of the roots that really can sort of, make sure it props you up to the latter part of your life, and then at that point that you are comfortable. In terms of financial planning, in terms of being healthy financially, at which point in life do you think that actually is a requirement to move?
I think the earlier the better.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a classic example. A friend of mine at the moment, we hang out and play some touch rugby as well occasionally. They're a husband and wife. They're in their early 30s. Both are doing excellent jobs. I think they're both earning decent money in Sri Lanka.
Right.
Till I sat down with them and asked, they said, Rohan, tell us about how you got about doing things. And by the way, I didn't plan my financial independence.
Right.
It just so happened that I was working so hard and I made perhaps some lucky calls and things happen. But the example I gave to them is they're both comfortable, but really they're spending all the money that they earn because the corporate machinery is geared to keep paying you extra and more so that you buy a bigger car, you go on much more expensive holidays. So they are already getting you into the treadmill where you have to keep working at that pace,
right,
to keep up with your ever increasing lifestyle expenditure, right? And I just said, look, one of you needs to work and go flat out, but the income from the other person needs to go into some sort of passive investment. And this is Rohan, very young. I said, yes, but these things don't happen overnight. You need to think about 20, 25, 30 years. And I said, if you don't look at it now and put away, it could be an index fund, or it could be some property related, or it could be a small business. I said, live within your means of one income and put away the rest, the other income, into some sort of investment. And I said, just forget about it, because over time you suddenly find that is giving you an income that allows both of you not to have to work,
right,
or not force you to work, so that you can go and do things which you really want to do. So I think in Sri Lanka everybody seems to have a passion for driving flash cars, and the car seems to be worth more than the house that they live in.
Yeah.
And seems to be, and they borrow a lot of money to be able to go and satisfy that. So I think instead of giving you an example,
right,
instead of spending $500,000 a month on a flash car, put that $500,000 into some sort of an investment. Mm-hmm. And in 5 years' time or 7 years' time, buy a car outright with the income from that investment.
You know, sometimes obviously, speaking to a fair amount of individuals out there who have come up with different sort of ideas in terms of investment, in terms of being healthy financially, but it's sad that we're not necessarily taught these things in school. You know, some of those life hacks, what to do in terms of, you know, where's your right investment? How do you invest? You've got to know the right person, or you need to hang around with the right people to obviously, you know, feed off. That shouldn't be the case.
No, I think our education system, there's a lot of things that need to be changed. And I think you're making a very valid observation and point where these things are not taught to you.
Yeah.
In fact, your last day in school or your last week in school, you finish your A-levels and then you apply to a job, whatever, and nobody tells you that, hey, you know, have you worked out a plan? You know, how are you going to do these things? So I think that's incredibly important. That is taught in some way, whether it's through the school system or whether through other sources. I was fortunate to have a mentor.
Yeah.
You know, who said, actually, Rohan, what are you trying to do? These are the pitfalls.
Not many people are as lucky as you.
Absolutely. I was very fortunate. So I think in that respect, I think this mentoring, somebody who has your best interests, right? Normally you don't listen to your parents, you think they're old-fashioned and they will say, don't spend, save. So, you know, no, but you need to find somebody outside who's going to tell you, give you some pointers in the right direction.
Well, Rohan, we're coming to the end of our podcast with AIA Insurance, Rethinking Healthy. Going back to what we spoke about, to individuals out there who are basically pretty much your age, the 60s, 65s, etc., who have not given a thought of basically being healthy. They spent almost all their time in, trying to build wealth at the moment. What would you want to tell those individuals right now who, like you said, are finding it difficult to pick themselves up because they don't have the energy to do what they want to do right now?
So I think that they have to make a distinction between earning a living and making money.
Right.
Usually, if you work for somebody else, you will be earning a living for most of your life. Right? If you work for yourself or you invest in some businesses, you're more likely, very much more likely to be earning some money.
Right.
And what I mean by earning some money means at the end of the month, you don't have zero balance in your current account. You have a plus in your current account. So in terms of financial health, I think it's important to draw that distinction. There have been very successful corporate people who have had their, in England we call it the pension fund. So they just don't do it, they just keep pushing money into the pension fund, and when they retire, that pension fund kind of gives them the lifestyle that they want to do. Nothing wrong with it. Right. Absolutely fine. Some people don't want to take a risk of investing in things because their psyche doesn't allow them to take that risk. But very important, along with the mental health, which is very complex, very tricky. You have to be lucky in life as well. Sometimes you marry the wrong person, you're in trouble, so you got to get.
It's a different type of healthy.
Yeah, yes. But I think they have to realize that however successful they have got three flash cars, a Mercedes, a Bentley or something like that, and 5 houses. If their health is not up to it, somebody else is going to enjoy all that, and not them.
Right.
And it's likely that they are not going to even enjoy even a quarter of that. So their physical self is something that they really need to think about, and take action very early.
Right.
I think that's the key to it.
Rohan, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I really am honored.
And we basically enjoyed listening to your side of the story. And I mean, somebody, of course, who decided to change things around as far as being healthy is concerned. Not necessarily from unhealthy to healthy, but taking a different notch at this age is not really common out there. It's very uncommon, and so congratulations.
Thank you
Congratulations
very much.
on all the medals.
Thank you very much.
The powerlifting.
Yes, thank you.
And would love to definitely give you all our best for more medals, I suppose, in the future.
I'd like to thank AIA for inviting me, and I'm sure you guys are going to do some great business here.
All right. Thank you very much, Rohan. Thanks so much. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Complete different ball game as far as rethinking healthy is concerned, from an individual who is age 60, but obviously thought to himself as far as health is concerned, and completely reshaped his life. That's exactly what we're talking about here on the show, and we're talking about individuals who rethink being healthy, just like AIA Insurance is pushing out there. You don't have to live at the gym to actually think you are healthy. There are so many different ways for you to basically be healthy. There are so many different attributes of being healthy. Mentally being healthy is one thing, financially being healthy is the other thing, and of course, being healthy as far as doing exercises is also another attribute. So many different things that we're going to talk about. We got more coming up right here on Rethink Healthy podcast with AIA Insurance. We shall be back very soon.